Axelrod, how to put this? The posturing, the way that Gavin Newsom was looking at that camera, the way that they built that crowd behind him, the way he made this announcement, I mean, it very much feels like a political campaign speech rally behind this, trying to set himself up as a foil to Donald Trump. Not the first time he's done that. Is it going to succeed?
Well, I don't know about the second. I would say this. Certainly it did look like that. Yes, he seems to be running for president. Yes, there's a constituency within the Democratic Party that wants a muscular response to the president. He's trying to play that role. It's also true that the president did call the governor of Texas to try and find him 5 seats because he is worried about the midterms, and it is changing the rules in the middle of the game. And that's why the California Democrats want to act, and I think that's a different issue.
So, Bakari, if that is a different issue, are Democrats playing this the right way? I mean, there is definitely this bipartisan commission to draw these maps exists for a reason. Democrats have spent a lot of time arguing institutions, norms, do this, play by the rules, and he's basically saying, you know what, we're going to throw that out.
I don't think he's saying throw it out. I'm not the biggest Gavin Newsom cheerleader, but he's being reactionary to, as David said, this president actually going out in the middle of the census. We're not even at a point where you go through redistricting and he's rigging the rules in the middle of the game. I actually was in the legislature in 2010. I actually sat on South Carolina's redistricting committee. I've actually been a part of a case that talked about gerrymandering that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So I understand this issue intently. And what we're seeing, though, is I've always said that Democrats and Republicans alike, this is the most unsexy issue that will rip apart the fabric of our democracy. It's not necessarily January 6th. It's not necessarily Donald Trump. It's not these things. But redistricting, gerrymandering, how we draw these lines will rip away at the fabric of democracy. And that's what we're seeing right now. If it becomes a free-for-all, that's why the Voting Rights Act was so important. That's why John Roberts' efforts to just pull apart the Voting Rights Act was so important. That's why I believe, and this should be the overarching push, and this should be something that Scott Jennings and Bakari Sellers could agree upon. There need to be independent, non-elected commissions that draw these lines.
So do you think Newsom's wrong?
And I mean, I think Newsom's playing politics, but he's playing politics in response to.
Is it good politics for him?
I mean, first of all, the priority for Gavin Newsom is always Gavin Newsom. So is it good politics for Gavin Newsom? I'm assuming there's a poll somewhere that says yes.
It's tricky politics, and here's why independent redistricting commissions are actually quite popular with California voters. They like this system that they've set up that they've had for about 2 decades or so. It gets different when you say, well, what if we change things to level the playing field with Donald Trump or to fight back against Donald Trump not playing fair? When the polls ask that question, California voters say, wait a second. But it's interesting, like they like what they have. And so over the next couple months, it really will be fascinating as to how it all plays out.
I totally disagree with one thing you said. This is extremely sexy. When we were preparing for the show, I had to put Axelrod under a fan in the green room. You should have seen him back there. It was wild. He was getting out of hand.
It was 6 minutes.
I mean, he was showing me.
First of all, it's 4 o'clock. I guess it is happy hour.
You know, the redistricting maps are labeled NSFW on Axel's phone. I'm just saying.
54 more minutes of this.
And here I said it would be fine to not have another woman on the panel.
Let me summarize Gavin Newsom's speech today. Gerrymandering is evil. Please vote for my gerrymandering. Of course, he failed to mention that it's already gerrymandered. Republicans get 40% of the vote in California. They have 17% of the congressional seats under a supposed independent redistricting commission. So we're going to further gerrymander the gerrymandering
by that standard, Scott, Texas is also gerrymandered. So
you want to keep going? How about Illinois?
But here's the issue.
Texas acknowledges Illinois is gerrymandered.
No, regular census, the legislature there gerrymandered Illinois. That's right. It wasn't in the middle of the game. But let the other side, because I think, you can fuzzy up that, and I think you've got some good political, there's probably good sense politics behind fuzzying that up. But here's the problem, and you sort of touched on it. Donald Trump fundamentally does not believe in rules, in laws, in norms, in institutions. He believes in doing what's in his political self-interest, his personal self-interest. And if you are the other party, and you are playing by the traditional rules and laws and norms and institutions, you're involved in asymmetric warfare because you've got someone who is willing not to play by the rules while you're playing by the rules, and that's what they're struggling with.
And even more, just
One second, Bakari, because to David's point, I want to underscore and play this something else that Gavin Newsom said here, because he basically made the argument that David is making here, and the way that he put it was rather evocative. Let's watch.
We need to disabuse ourselves of the way things have been done. It's not good enough to just hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, and talk about the way the world should be. We have got to recognize the cards that have been dealt. And we have got to meet fire with fire.
Not good enough to have a candlelight vigil, he says.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, there has to be some level of fortitude that Democrats show, and I think that is the palpable type of frustration that you feel from Democrats. They don't see it from Chuck Schumer. They're tired of the Akeem Jeffries videos that are just kind of in the Netherlands where he talks with his hands. Like, people want to see this type of reaction. I will say this, though, just to build on David's point a little bit more. Like, Donald Trump is everything that you said, but he likes to win more than all of those things. And if his policies were popular, if he thought he was going to win re-election, this wouldn't be a thing. If Epstein files weren't a thing, this wouldn't be a thing. So all of the things that he's doing, he is trying to, and he's doing a good job. It's called, in politics, it's called flooding the zone. Every single day is something else. It's DC, it's this, it's that, it's everything else, because he's flooding the zone. And if he thought that he could win with the big, beautiful bill, if he thought his policies in DC were so important, if he did X, Y, and Z, this would not be an issue. And I would just offer, if Republicans thought they could win, they wouldn't be changing the rules.
I mean, Scott, there is a point, you know, if you don't call Abbott and ask for 5 more seats if you don't think you need them.
Well, he's trying to get any kind of advantage that he can. Hardly unusual for a politician or a political party. I totally disagree with you about the popularity of his policies. I think Democrats are on the wrong side of violent crime. I think they're on the wrong side of illegal immigration. And I think they're on the wrong side of virtually every cultural issue he's put in play. I think we're going to be quite fine fighting that out.
So the principal issue that people are coping with in this country is the cost of things. Today, wholesale prices jumped a full point, the biggest in 3 years. So you can talk about these other things, but I'll tell you something. You get into those districts in South Texas, I'm going to be curious to see whether the voters that they're counting on are going to stick with them, because these are voters who are working class people who are struggling and who are going to be dealing with the cost of these policies, and I think it's going to be problematical for them.
So this sort of just in, this is the Governor Newsom press office on the platform X. They've posted a video and written this. They've started, I don't think this is the first message they've put in all caps, the way that President Trump often does on his True Social platform. Border Patrol has showed up at our big, beautiful press conference. We will not be intimidated. And Elliot, there is video of Border Patrol agents outside. This was a Japanese heritage museum where these officials were speaking. Those are federal resources. It's kind of remarkable.
Sure. Now, we don't know why they were there, and that is to Bakari's point of the norms that are upended by Donald Trump that Democrats sort of are hungry for. No, I'm saying, no, we're...
You don't know why they're there?
I don't know why...
The Democratic press conference, who do you think goes to these things? Of course you know why they're there.
You know exactly what I was saying.
It's the principal constituency of their party.
Can I finish?
Your party. Go ahead.
Am I? But my point is, you know, I mean, they could be doing an enforcement action. They could be doing 100 miles within the border action. It could be any host of reasons why they're there. So I don't.
But showing up in tactical gear outside of an event for, you know, I mean, obviously the President of the United States is in charge of federal resources. We've seen him make a big show about being in charge of federal resources. Obviously, Newsom is treating himself like an opponent of Donald Trump's, a political opponent, to send people to stand outside the event.
That is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
It's not that Donald Trump necessarily sent the Border Patrol to go after Gavin Newsom because he was having an event. The point that I'm picking up on, that Bakari was making, which is that these are all norms of politics that have been upended by the president, such as using personal social media accounts to make political points. Some Democrats are probably receptive to Gavin Newsom tweeting in all caps and engaging in some of this behavior too. Sorry?
He did it in all caps?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And, you know, and calling Trump names and so on, mimicking the tone.
But I mean, for me personally, I mean, I just think that's silly. And I think that there are a lot of primary voters that will view that as being silly. And I think that the reason that Joe Biden won that race in 2020 as the alternative to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, do people want their version of Trump?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is, but this is the very question that is going to characterize Democrats for the next several years, which is, do you want to match that energy or
Bizarro Trump, if you will. I mean, that's
Bizarro Trump.
But I mean, but to Scott's point, I mean, Republicans don't win on. I mean, Scott made a good point. Republicans don't win on substance. They don't win on facts. They don't win on things. They don't win on things like inflation or job creation or crime going down.
24.
They
How
win
do you think we won? It was on inflation.
Because inflation's gone up. Because of the simple, because
no,
of,
that's
yeah,
you should
actually,
be concerned about
inflation
that.
literally has gone up. Like the cost of goods has gone up. But even more importantly, when you talk about things like this is why this is so fascinating. Yeah. Because we're talking about giving redistricting back to the hands of the voters. We're talking about giving redistricting back to the people who elect folks. That's what they do in California. But you have this gamesmanship. You have Kash Patel saying just weeks ago that the crime rate in D.C. has dipped by 25%. But Scott is saying it doesn't feel like it, right? And so they actually wade into these cultural wars.
That's why Biden lost the election on the economy.
Well, Biden lost the election on the economy because
the economy is great, and everybody kept looking around being like, I can't
And
afford
so
it.
the question is, now that Donald Trump is doing that and saying, no, prices are going down, we've never had a better economy and so on, I'm having kind of Bidenomics kind of
Deja vu.
flashbacks here.
I doubt we've covered it, but just for the record, there is some credible evidence from a whistleblower case today that the D.C. Police Department has been falsifying the crime statistics. I would encourage you to look it up.
That's from 2020. I know what you're talking about.
But it doesn't matter. Every statistic that comes out that's counter to any narrative put forth out of 1600 Pennsylvania, if it's counter to that narrative, it's not true.
According to them.
According to them.
Yeah.
And that's my only point.
Yeah. Let's show a little bit of this video that we just got in from Newsom's office of these officers outside this event. And I mean, my question is just, is the point here to intimidate the supporters of a political opponent in a way that's honestly based on their ethnicity?
I don't know. I honestly.
Yes. You can say yes.
Bakari, I do not know, having worked for ICE, when you see 50 ICE agents on the street, it could be a host of reasons why they're there. And Gavin Newsom, quite frankly, is making, hold on.
Finish.
Gavin Newsom is making a very smart move there by tweeting it out saying, look, they're coming after us.
Yeah, respectfully, I've never.
If you were the counsel for ICE now,
Yeah.
would you say, yeah, go to this, hang out outside of the governor's press conference when he is taking on the president on a redistricting issue? That's a really good idea. No, you wouldn't do that because the implications
hold on. If ICE were being controlled by the White House that was constantly using it to make political statements, then absolutely.
All right, well, that's a good answer.
I mean,
it's a political statement, not a law enforcement.
They might have been guarding him.
Right
some of these illegals are kind of violent, you know? I mean, these Border Patrol agents might have been.
Listen, I will tell you this, though. Like I did say in the green room, I did feel safer today in D.C. because of DHS and everybody else. I saw these guys in slacks with penny loafers, and they had the electric bicycles, and they were doing wheelies. And it was like 3 or 4 of them, and I don't know where they were coming from, but I did feel safer.
Those congressional staffers, knowing mess you up.
Wheelies on electric bikes.
Here, though, with these, the concern.
Doing serious.
Everyone's concerned about crime, no matter what Scott Jennings has or will say, but. There is the concern about taking all federal resources, the military, FBI, ICE, and so on, and by declaring an emergency and putting them all on the streets because you're one step away from something very dark, and so that's why the ICE presence there is something worth noting.